Virginia Democratic Senator and former Governor Mark Warner joins me now for his first national interview since Saturday's incidents. Thank you very much for joining us, Senator. Did the president say what you wanted him to hear by name-checking the KKK, white supremacists, racists, neo-Nazis?
Andrea, I think the president, in his last statement, actually sounded presidential. I wish that he would have said those same words on Saturday when local leaders, elected leaders across the country were calling out this kind of vileness that was exhibited by some of these hate groups on Saturday. I'm disappointed it took him a couple of days. I know I got calls from senators in both political parties on Saturday saying this was awful what was happening in Charlottesville, but I will give the president the benefit that today he said the words. Now we have to make sure his Department of Justice acts on those words and that we fully pursue not only this one individual who recklessly murdered that one individual and hurt others, but this Justice Department will go after some of these hate groups across the country because they'll be back.
You were the governor, and I know you know Charlottesville well. Talk to me about what needs to be done there to heal these wounds and deal with the underlying problems.
Well, Charlottesville is a community with a rich history of tolerance, diversity. It's a university town. It's got a lot of folks who've actually moved there. It's often rated one of the best small cities in America. So I think folks were surprised that this happened in Charlottesville. They have gone through a lengthy process on trying to sort through the full story of race in Charlottesville, which involves both these Civil War monuments and the fact that for an awful long time, Virginia's got a proud history, but we've got some dark spots on that history, from how we treated African Americans after the Civil War to the fact that Virginia schools shut down rather than integrate with massive resistance back in the 50s. So Charlottesville was trying to sort that through. My hope is, out of the tragedy of Saturday, they'll continue to move forward with a sense of tolerance and a sense that this community will still remain great.
Now, the Attorney General called it domestic terrorism. I don't think the president did, but do we have to call it what it is, which is terrorism?
I think we do, Andrea. This was domestic terrorism. It was the same type of evil tactics, using a car as a weapon that we've seen in Europe. And for a presidential candidate that was so obsessed about calling out Barack Obama for failing to use the term Islamic terrorists, that same standard should be applied when we're seeing foreign-based terrorism take place here in America, or when we see what we saw on Saturday, a hate group that practiced domestic terrorism.
And what is your message also to it's a university town, as you pointed out. It's a great university. Obviously, incoming freshmen and other students are about to arrive on campus. There are a lot of issues there in this wonderful community, which, of course, is the home of Mr. Jefferson, and that is a complicated history as well, but also a great intellectual force in Charlottesville.
Well, I think you will see freshmen school will start in a short time, will continue to come in. Charlottesville is a great community. It's got a great, academic life. It's got a great restaurant life. It's got a great tourism center. I don't think people will move away or step back. And Charlottesville has had a history of wrestling with tough issues. The local city council there did this whole monument question over an 18-month period. There were a number of public hearings. But I think what concerns me the most, Andrea, is that some of these alt-right groups, at least in terms of their press yesterday and today, they saw Charlottesville as a victory for them, even with the tragic loss of life. And the fact is that these alt-right groups, they've already applied for another permit to rally in Richmond at a later time. I think they're saying they're going to try to rally across the country. And I think it's important that Americans of all political stripes stand up and say, we support free speech, but the kind of hate speech and neo-Nazi, racist, vile efforts that these groups represent, they have no place in any political dialogue in our country.
How do you balance the equities of free speech? I mean, this goes back to the ACLU in Skokie back decades ago. People are arriving in an open carry state. There are other open carry states throughout the South and West. And what do you do when armed groups arrive with Nazi flags and with Confederate flags and torches and helmets and military uniforms?
Henry, I think democracy is messy, and our First Amendment is what separates us from basically any other Western democracy in the world. So we've got to protect that. There's got to be, though, I think, both appropriate police presence that was available on Saturday, and my hope, though, is a more uniform condemnation of these groups from across the political spectrum. I was very proud when I saw so many of my Republican colleagues on Saturday either call me or tweet out messages condemning these type of groups. There is no spot, there's a spot for anybody in the political dialogue, but not for anyone that practices hate, that calls for a racist approach to our country. That is not what American democracy is built on.
Thank you so much. Senator Mark Warner joining us from Virginia today.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.